Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's Middlesex University Parents and Carers Network event as part of our Equality, Diversity and Inclusion commitment. Myself, Suli and Charmaine, as the co-chairs of the network, warmly welcome you and thank you for joining us today and or watching back. And today's event is called Co-Regulation in Theory and Practice with our speakers, Dr. Conkbayir and Andrea Sofroniou. I'm going to do a little introduction of both and then I will pass over. So Dr. Conkbayir is an award-winning author, trainer and researcher. She is the winner of the Nursery Management Today Top 5 Most Inspirational People in Childcare Award. Minna is passionate about bridging the knowledge gap between neuroscience and early years. She's designed the new Cachet Neuroscience in Early Years qualifications and accompanying textbooks as part of this endeavour. She is the founder of the award-winning endorsed learning programme, Applying Neuroscience to Early Intervention, and the 2 times award-winning online training programme, Self-Regulation in Early Years. She is also the designer of the 2 times award-winning free self-regulation app, the Keep Your Cool Toolbox, and has contributed to the development of the Birth to 5 Matters non-statutory guidance for the EYFS on the subject of self-regulation. Minna is a frequent public speaker, speaking at the Ofsted Big Conversation, delivering training on behalf of local authorities and fostering organisations, as well as various early years providers. Minna has also hosted 3 sellout talks with funding on the subject of adverse childhood experiences and the long-term impact of trauma. What I'll do is welcome Minna, and she's going to give us a section of her talk now, and then I'll welcome Andrea later. But just huge thanks everyone for being with us, and we'll end on questions, but I will pass over to Minna now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christiana, and hello everybody. Really chuffed to be here with you this morning. I know we don't have that long and I do tend to pack a lot in, so if you don't understand anything or I go too fast, please pop any questions in the chat function and we'll go through them later on. Just one thing that Christiana mentioned that I do want to pick up on before I forget is that she mentioned I've designed and written national qualifications, one introductory, 2, but one of them is an introductory qualification in self-regulation in early years, and I've written the textbook for that as well, which has won an award. And never mind that, that's not the point, but the point is it's taken up by many practitioners across sectors. Police officers are engaging with it right now, foster carers, biological parents, early years practitioners. And what I'm saying is, if those of you have an interest in this beyond this talk and you want to learn a little bit more about the developing brain and your role as parents and carers in nurturing healthy brain development, then please do engage with it. We can send you the link after, Christiana, remind me, because it is free, it's nationally recognised, it's an NCFE qualification, and why not? We need to be the best we can be for our children and our young adults.
It's actually a fantastic course. I'm currently doing it at the moment, so I'm halfway through it. So
and
it doesn't
Andrea
matter
is a tough customer. Oh, hi, Lourdes. Yeah.
So nice to finally meet you, even if it's online.
Likewise. Oh, that's fantastic. That's superb. What I'm going to do is just, Christiana, I'm sure you're going to have to help me, just turn my camera off and then focus on the slides. Like I said, this is not meant to be, in depth and covering everything. I'm trying to signpost you to some key points, and then Andrea will pick it up and we can go through any questions after the event, if that's all right. So, Christiana, the common sense bit, what do I do?
For the share screen, bottom section.
It's either on the bottom middle or your top middle. It's the green button with the arrow that says share screen. Can you see it?
Yeah, I think
it's different formats, isn't it?
Yeah, I am sorry, everyone. No matter
Don't
where
worry
I go,
at all. We're very informal today.
I'm just staring at this for no reason.
Click on.
I can see everyone now. John, Barrett, Anne, Nadia, Emma. Hello.
Hey, everybody.
Pardon me while I annoy everyone. Aha.
Find the green button, click on it,
Yes, thank
And then
you. I can hear
go
the
on to-
patronising tone kick in.
I'm trying to be supportive.
Shush, I know you. Right, are we on? Are we, yeah, all good?
We're good. We can see it. Perfect.
You
Thank
see my
you.
slides, but you can't see me. Is that right?
Well, we can see you too, depending on everyone's.
Oh no, stop video. There you go. Haha. You can't see me now, can you?
We can't see you now.
Good. I don't want you to see me. So, prioritizing self-regulation, it's not rocket science, but it is neuroscience. So just a few things that I'd like us to address before I do the off in about half hour is to understand what self-regulation actually is and look at it through the lens of its 5 domains as recognized by Dr. Stuart Shanker. From that, I want you to understand your critical role in co-regulating children's emotions and consequently their behaviour. But in order for us to be able to do this on any meaningful level, we do need to have a chat and an open reflection about our own mental health, because without our ability to self-regulate, we have no hope of co-regulating our children's emotions and their behaviour. And I think it's safe to say that we are, you know, that biggest barometer of how our children are feeling, how we are feeling. It's all inextricably linked. So pardon me for repeating anything you already know, but this is a Milky Way galaxy, and on the right is a very cute baby. What's the connection?
Number of neuron connections in the brain.
Yeah, spot on. So the number of synaptic connections, or neurons actually at the moment, let's focus on that, is about 86 to 100 billion in a newborn baby's brain. And there are about a minimum of 100 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy. We know that. We know that. I find it staggering that something as vast and infinite is also mirrored in the human infant's brain. And that number of, if we're going to be accurate, 86 billion or so neurons, doesn't actually change much throughout the life trajectory. But what does change significantly so is the number of those synaptic connections between them. And why is that important? If we think of the brain as a map and it's joining up and it's getting more solidified, more organized, more coherent in how it's thinking and functioning, that happens most in those early years of life, from birth to 2. But obviously the brain does not stop growing or developing. Please, I'm not here to, you know, perpetuate any myths. But by 3 years old, each of those neurons has about 15,000 synaptic connections communicating with all those other neurons. That's almost twice that of the average adult brain. Never again across the life trajectory do these connections take place. And I'm saying that to you to emphasize how critical our role really is, because all of this then shapes that child's internal dialogue, their internal working model, their attachments, and their self-perception. And we know this can either be a force for good or for bad. When we think of those of us that have grown up in adversity, have been exposed to abuse or neglect, our perception of the world and those around us is dangerous, it's unsafe. And the more this is taking place consistently, the more reinforced it becomes neurobiologically, because our brains are making those synaptic connections directly based on our experiences. So that's like motorways, like these super highways, if you like, getting more and more ingrained. That brain is becoming wired for stress. And over time, if this isn't resolved, we get the effects of trauma, especially if there is no support network for these children, these young adults, or these adults even. One thing I'm going to come on to even more in a moment, when we're talking about brain development, and it is experience dependent. Everything that child is exposed to influences how certain brain regions, the whole brain is actually developing and growing. So I mentioned the impact of adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, and trauma. The effects on the brain are long term, and I find them as fascinating as I do deeply disturbing, because our brain's panic button, the amygdala, which is responsible, primarily for fight or flight and alerting us to danger, that amygdala in children who survive trauma is enlarged. It's overactivated. The volume should not be bigger than others, but it is in children who have been exposed to adversity. The hippocampus, responsible for memory, learning recall, that is also significantly impaired in children who have experienced adversity and trauma. We have the prefrontal cortex. That is responsible for all those school readiness skills. That's a term I despise, by the way, because it should be how child ready are our schools. And generally, not all, they are not child ready or child focused. So planning, organising, thinking before we act critically, problem solving, negotiating, compromising. All of those skills are concerned with the cortex, or the prefrontal cortex, which resides behind the left eye. Any idea how many years it takes for that prefrontal cortex to fully develop?
Around 23 years or 26 years?
Yeah, about 26 years. 26 years for that prefrontal cortex, the seat of all our rational thinking. 26 years. Now you think about that directly in line with our expectations of children in school and therefore at home. Because, well, if teachers are doing something, then it's got to be the right way. We have to perpetuate this at home. Time out. Go and think about what you've done. I'm 3 or 4 years old. You've made me sit on my own. I'm feeling really upset. I feel like crying. You didn't even listen to me. You didn't even hear me out why I did what I did, for example. Children do not go alone and think about what they've done. Their body's been put into a state of fight or flight because they haven't been listened to. You don't know the full story, perhaps. They need to be co-regulated, coming on to that in a moment, by an adult to help process and name those feelings that are so massive inside them. The demands on children academically, phonics tests, spellings tests, baseline assessment tests when they're 4. They don't need this. This isn't about children. It's about accountability of schools and league tables. And that prefrontal cortex, highly sensitive to stressors, especially chronic toxic stressors like adversity, ongoing abuse, neglect. So what I'm trying to emphasize here is our brains are a direct reflection of how we are treated, our experiences. Oh, just for fun, I put up this person on the right. I'm sure someone knows who he is in the story. Any ideas? I'd offer a prize, but I don't have anything worthy. Some vegan marshmallows if you're interested.
I know who it is.
Go on then.
It's Phineas Gage.
Yeah, tell us.
He was it's a famous psychology sort of study because he was a rail worker.
Yeah.
And he was they were creating like tracks or whatever, and he was patting down the dynamite and it exploded, and that post that you can see in the picture went straight through his brain and came out the other side, went through his face and out the other side of his brain. And he lost a bit of his brain, but he didn't. Well, he survived, didn't he? But his temperament was changed. He actually carried on being a fully functioning human.
Yeah.
But he became a different person, so that's
Yeah.
what I know about it.
Thank you, Nikki. Absolutely bang on. And that's still I can't remember where in America, but it's in a museum for us all to see, and I really do want to make it one day. So that metal rod spliced out his prefrontal cortex. I mean, wow. And he survived exactly, seemed to be quite normal, but Phineas Gage as a person was no more. So he couldn't hold down a job. He couldn't think rationally. He engaged in gambling, drinking, cheating on his wife, all sorts. Basically, the thinking before you act element was gone. He couldn't regulate his emotions and therefore his behavior. Really interesting stuff. And the fact that he survived such a major accident, just amazing. Yeah. So let's look at this very quickly. We've got 86 billion neurons at birth. Remember, that number doesn't really change much, save for those that are chronically sleep deprived or those that are severely ongoingly neglected and abused. But generally speaking, it's 86 billion neurons at birth, with more than 1 million synaptic connections being created every second in those early years, birth to 2 particularly. About 15,000 synaptic connections for all of those 86 billion neurons by 3 years old. That's a very busy 3-year-old we've got going on there. And by about 5 years old, 90% of that brain is fully developed. So when I mentioned earlier, it isn't do or die in the early years because our brain is malleable. We learn until we shuffle off this mortal coil. We know that. But what does gradually happen the older a child becomes is that the brain regions responsible for emotion, language, sociability, physical skills, they do close down a little. They do. And that's why we can't learn as rapidly or as readily the older we get. And it takes about 25 years for that key brain region, the prefrontal cortex, to fully develop. And the health of its development depends on us. So in line with this, I just want you to think about how we view children's behaviour. We often dive in, don't we, to what we can see, especially in many schools. But we don't give due consideration to the feelings and the emotions that give rise to the behaviours. So we might typically see shouting, screaming, crying, words I don't like, opposition and defiance, lying perhaps. But what's driving it beneath? Is that child tired? Are they hungry? Do they feel embarrassed? Have they been humiliated? Are they being picked on? Do they feel neglected? Do they feel unheard? Do they feel isolated? All of these drivers are constantly triggering so many of our children, and we don't give it due consideration. And this is why I am wholly opposed to consequences and reprimanding of behaviours. And I appreciate we all come from different perspectives and things that work. It works for me. I'm not, well, why does my child listen then? Well, there's a difference between encouraging a child to understand why something they did might not have been the best choice, or instilling such fear into them that they know when I give them that look, they've got to, whatever it is, or there'll be consequences. Why do there have to be consequences as such? Why do we not just talk to them more and give them, how I see it, it's like an emotional toolkit, and give them the tools they need to be able to choose a different way next time. And I know Andrea's going to speak about this in a minute or two. But I don't think we give children enough respect. I don't think we trust them enough to do the right thing when they are enabled to do the right thing. So I don't have to hit out, I don't have to slam the doors when I get angry with mum or dad, for example. I can take a few slow, deep breaths with mum, works with my child. Actually, I was going to say something, I wasn't going to, and I am going to, but she also loves to suck on ice cubes when she's really angry. And when she's, you know, when we're in calmer moments, and she just opened the door the other day coming in from school, she said, but no, honestly, ice is like a miracle cure because I'm angry, I eat and it helps. I'm sad, it helps. I've got a toothache, it helps. When I'm hot, it helps. And she's 10 and I find that really endearing, but she's found her own way. Or she'll grab a blanket and roll around on the front lawn outside. Nature is instantly grounding. And she knows, what I'm saying is she can listen to her body and do what she needs to do to calm down. I don't tell her off for slamming the doors. Yes, there was no, you know, accident as to why I said slamming the door. She'll slam a door and I won't tell her off. I'll be like, come, let's chat about it. Why have I upset you? What have I said? What you did, what didn't you like? They have rights to be listened to. But I think we forget this too conveniently all too often, especially in schools that are pushing those godforsaken flipping, let me not swear, the behaviour charts with the thunderclouds and the traffic lights and the timeout and the removing of, what is it called, golden time. Why are we doing this carrot and stick? It is not actually instilling intrinsic motivation to do differently. It's do as I say, or, right? It's not equipping them thereby for life with tools to choose different and do different. It's all I am dictating to you, you are controlled by me. There's no internal locus of control, and that's dangerous. We don't want compliant children. Right, can you see me? I can't see me.
Yep, we can see
Yes,
you.
we can see you.
Oh, look, there's my face. So I'm guessing you're all very familiar with this hand model of the brain, are you? Yay, no, I can't read minds.
No, not familiar myself.
Okie dokie. So I'm going to go through this hand model of the brain. It's devised by my favorite neuroscientist, psychologist, Dr. Dan Siegel, and it perfectly demonstrates why a child who has become dysregulated, their nervous systems have become upset, right? It explains why they cannot think rationally in the moment and tap into their cortical brain. It's not a tantrum. Children don't have a dysregulated moment to push your buttons or because they know how to wind you up. They have become dysregulated. It's not a tantrum. I have fought hard with the Department for Education, and I am going to say this. Oh my God, does anyone work for the DfE actually?
Definitely not. Not
Okay,
here.
good.
We're all Middlesex
Good.
here.
I'm going to
Okay.
start working with them tomorrow, so I think it will be great if I can actually.
Are you
inform them.
really?
Yeah, but I'm just doing a mentor for the childminders, and I think
Oh Lord, I'm not saying another word. I've already tried to be yeah. Woo.
Yeah, filter what you say, Minna, filter it.
please do.
No, she was saying that she is open to it because she'll be working with them so she can guide them to be doing things in a better
Exactly.
manner. So do be honest with your opinions, Minna.
Well, I have just been silenced by them, and it means that someone isn't going to be funded to pay for me to give a keynote because they didn't agree with what I was saying. But we did meet. This is completely, I'm so sorry everyone to digress, but it's relevant, okay, because I believe I advocate on the rights of children, and when they're not being upheld, I'm going to bloody say something about it. Anyway, we met and they apologized. But it is down to me and a few select others that they did remove the advocating of timeout, withholding of toys as punishment in their latest guidance. Bearing in mind, this is a post-COVID recovery guidance. And I said, how dare you put in such outmoded behaviourist toxic approaches as endorsed? They did remove it, but if you look on social media just today, and I have had my moment, Andrea as a witness, it's caused a massive, massive issue. And it worries me that parents and practitioners alike are still in 2023 are being guided by behaviourist approaches. It's all very much compliance control led. Why? because children are work fodder. They're in a sausage factory and they have to perform a certain way, and it's a one-size-fits-all mentality. And it is, because our policies are there as evidence of this. And it's dangerous. It's dangerous stuff. Anyway, back to this. So the hand-brain model is a perfect way to explain what happens to a child when they become dysregulated. I'm emphasizing it because 3 sightings of tantrum on page 21 of their birth to 2 guidance, the DFE, is sat there. And I had to fight to get it removed from this other guidance I just mentioned. If you look up the definition of a tantrum, hissy fit, being unreasonable, manipulative, angry. This is how we're describing a child who's become distressed, and that's okay. It's not okay. It's not okay. And the counter argument has been that practitioners and parents don't understand a word like dysregulation because it's a little bit long. How disrespectful and patronizing. So please don't take what the arbiters of the education system tell you as the standard. They are so far behind current neuroscientific thinking. They are not trauma informed, even though they are trying to make these tentative steps towards it. It's too much at odds with the bigger picture of what they're promoting. But that's another discussion for another day, and I am sorry. So this hand-brain model, you can talk about it with your children if they're old enough, you know, from 3 years old, absolutely fine. Teenagers, leadership teams use it. It's massive across the US. It's gaining traction here, but a bit slower. I've got it in all my books, in the training I mentioned, in the qualifications. And it helps us to understand what actually is going on when a child is triggered. All right, and we're going to come on to that triggering in a second. So Dan Siegel says, the wrist represents the brainstem, leading into the downstairs brain, which is home to the limbic system. You can see it in the diagram here. And the limbic system, as written there, is home to 2 key brain regions that I mentioned earlier. The brain's panic button, the amygdala, which is teeny, 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 2 of them actually, 2 tiny, tiny almonds, amygdala, right? Panic button. So that keeps us safe. Very primitive, but its function is to keep us safe and alert us to dangers, whether they are perceived or real. Okay. Next to that is the hippocampus, tiny seahorse-shaped structure responsible for learning, associating smells to memories and memory recall, like I said. Okay. In the downstairs brain, home to the limbic system, that is generally governed here by the upstairs brain, the cortical brain, the outside layer, all right? Chiefly medial prefrontal cortex, behind the left eye. That's all your school readiness stuff, all your rational brain stuff, right? So the downstairs emotionally reactive brain is generally regulated by the upstairs cortical brain. So this keeps us in check. It enables you to sit here and listen to me. It enables me to sit here, go about my business, talking to you, knowing that a tiger isn't going to come and jump up from behind me. We're all safe, right? Our rational brain is working to keep our emotional downstairs brain in check. But when a child is triggered by you, by your responses at school, whatever it might be, it takes milliseconds. They're triggered. They flip their lid. The lids come off. Boom. What do we see in those milliseconds? It might be a child throwing themselves on the floor, hitting out at you, hitting a friend, screaming, shouting, refusals, whatever it is, they've been triggered. That panic button's been activated. And what happens inside? The brain and body are awash with stress hormones, chiefly cortisol, adrenaline, heart beating. Ah! Oh, they're having a tantrum. Right, go to the head teacher's office. Red card, time out. It's not a tantrum. They're not kicking off for any silly reason. What they need in those few milliseconds, because it does happen like that, doesn't it? And you're like, where did that come from? But they've been triggered. Their nervous system is upset. It needs to be regulated to help put that lid back down again. This is why I detest behaviour management approaches, because it cuts off any opportunity for that adult to emotionally connect with that child, to bring them back to a place of psychological calm. So when we reprimand, whatever it is they've done, yeah, but they did so-and-so, they hit so-and-so, they have to have consequences, they need it. No, they don't. What they first need is to be calmed down by an adult. Let's slow the heart rate. Let's regulate the breathing. Because those massive emotions in a little child are bloody scary for them as well, right? So you're adding fuel to the fire by reprimanding them and not engaging with them. Siegel has this, which is common sense: name it to tame it. First we connect, then we name it to tame it. Tell me what happened. Yeah, they might be frustrated, they might be angry, there must be a sense of injustice. Only when we calm them down can we then talk about the next step, which is problem solving or finding solutions together. You know, do you remember what you did at that point? Yeah, slam the door. Why did you do it? Well, I was really angry. I didn't like the way you blah, blah, blah. Okay. What do you think we can do next time to stop that from happening? And then we talk through things. Might be going for a walk together. It genuinely, that slow, deep breathing is the only automatic function we have that we can control. It's our biggest weapon against feeling dysregulated. How many times do we say it? Sure, just need to take a few deep breaths, gather myself. More so for a child. And the earlier we give these co-regulating techniques before we dive into reprimanding, those techniques will grow and develop with these children. Remember that emotional toolkit I said? We're putting in those little tools, the strategies for them. It might be journaling, it might be drawing a picture. Anything that provides a safe release outlet for that big emotion, whether it's anger, frustration, whatever. But we owe it to our children to talk to them openly about that connection between their brains and their bodies and how it feels when it feels to be wobbly. I describe it as being wobbly. We do it. I light a scented candle. I take deep breaths. I go for walks. I'm at the gym. We've got our coping mechanisms. We need to do the same for our children in order for them to be able to self-regulate their emotions and consequently their behaviours, so they can choose the healthier option when it comes to behaving and responding to triggers. So what is self-regulation? When I say it, what are you thinking?
Making sure that you're calm yourself when dealing with the situation. So kind of choosing your attitude to the situation, as it were. Yeah.
So there are many definitions of this, by the way, 476 minimum, I think, globally. And many of them reside, and this is a crucial distinction that I must make with you if you go off and do some reading. Many of the definitions reside in cognitive approaches. So it's about rational thinking and academic skills as opposed to the emotional domain. Remember, I said there are 5 domains, but we're going to come on to them in a moment. Self-regulation, in short, is how we manage our emotions and our consequent behaviours. Self-regulation is not self-control. It is what enables self-control to happen. Okay, there's a clear difference that has to be made there. And Dr. Stuart Shanker, I love this. I love this because it's from the perspective of the child. He explains that self-regulation is our ability to manage stress and the brain processes that control the energy we spend with to cope with that stressor and get over it. Most importantly is this bit for me. When an individual's stress levels are too high, because remember that cortisol and adrenaline are surging through the brain and body, they're in fight or flight. Rah! Various systems for thinking, metabolic recovery, our immunity, everything is shut down because that child is in stress response mode. And we know it, fight or flight. The only thing that matters is surviving. Digestion, forget about digestion. Regulating your hormones and needing to go for a wee or trying to hold a wee in, forget it, it all goes to pot. And the signs of dysregulated behaviour, or dysregulation rather, shows up in behaviour or in the child's mood, their temperament, or their ability to stay on task, to give attention. And it shows up in their physical well-being. Remember, it is because all vital functions, processes, bodily processes are compromised because that amygdala, that primitive emotionally reactive brain region, the downstairs brain, is in charge. And this is why we need to do a whole lot more talking and empathizing to build a child's ability to self-regulate, to help them to choose healthier ways to behave and to respond to those stressors. And the reason why I love his definition is because it comes with, it's got the 5 domains of self-reg. Remember, I said that many definitions only focus on the cognitive element, and that's because of this whole drive to push school readiness and academic prowess over emotional well-being, because it's a bit wishy-washy well-being. But then when children are starting to self-harm from age 3 years old, only then does it grab, the public's attention. I'm going to say something in a minute about that if I don't forget. So the 5 domains of self-regulation: biological, emotional, cognitive, social, prosocial. So we need to be able to self-regulate in these 5 areas. Let me take the biological domain. So what I've done is, on the left, these are the domains, and on the right, I've put down some triggers. Look at the triggers in this top domain alone. You think about a typical nursery or school environment, and you know what a child is dealing with: excessive visual stimulation, noise, insufficient exercise, having to be too still for too long, cluttered classrooms, illness, COVID. Think about our children who have survived trauma. Think about our ADHDers, autistic children, those with sensory processing difficulties. My goodness, it's like a red button being pressed constantly. And it's these children that are deemed daydreamers, troublemakers, too fidgety. They suffer under a behaviour management approach. What we need are more trauma-informed approaches to behaviour for everybody, staff and children alike, and parents. We're all human beings. Look, changes in routines, not being able to deal with big emotions, time constraints, difficulty processing information and using that information, difficulty in reading social cues. When we think of our autistic children, our ADHDers, not being able to identify emotions of others or within themselves. These children are being triggered, and there is no support for them coming from a co-regulating perspective, which is why we really do need to move away from them. Go back and look at, I mean, obviously you're here as parents, but, you know, from a practitioner's perspective, what are the behaviour policies saying? As a result of my training, I've got one amazing practitioner who's transformed the policies and procedures in her, I think they've got 50 nurseries. They've binned behaviour management, and it's all about understanding behaviours. And as a result of taking my self-reg messages on board, they've halved the referrals for SEND. There are better relationships between parents and their children, parents and staff, children and staff. They constantly report calmer climates for learning that are more therefore conducive for learning and behaving pro-socially, for example. This is the way we need to go. And what I was going to say earlier on is that studies continue to capture two key facts. One, that a child's ability to self-regulate at just 3 years old is a better indicator of academic success than IQ. Now that speaks volumes. The second key fact is that signs of self-harm in teenagers can be tracked back at least 10 years through poor self-regulatory ability of toddlers and very young children. For me, it is a matter of life and death. It truly is. When does it start? It starts from pregnancy for us mums. All that talking to, reading to them, singing to them while they're in utero, trying to manage our stress levels. Of course, we all need some stress in our lives. It's essential for that get up and go. But it's when it becomes toxic and constant that it impacts our children's well-being from in utero. So many studies exist demonstrating the impact on newborns who had stressed mums during pregnancy, smaller birth weight, more irritability, lowered immunity. Because why? That cortisol is not only in the mum's body, it's being passed through to the baby. And this beautiful image on the right is by a neuroscientist who took a photo of her kissing her baby while he was asleep in a big Tesla tube. Isn't it bloody beautiful? She's showing that when she kisses him, the mirroring going on neurally is evident. You see in the motor cortex there, in the prefrontal cortex. I just think it's the most beautiful thing. So we know what self-reg is. It's managing our own emotions and our behaviours. And co-regulation is how we enable a child or another adult to self-regulate. Yeah, and there are 3 main ways we do it. It's by, essentially, for me anyway, our relationship with that person, how responsive we are, how we support them through the trials and tribulations. What are we doing while we speak to them? What words are we using? What's our tone? What are we doing to explicitly guide and teach self-reg skills? Because we can't teach it without modelling it and modelling the empathy. There's got to be love there, respect, due regard. But it's also about the environment. What's your environment like at home or in the settings? Is it hectic? Is it messy? Is it loud? What's going on? What might be triggering that child? And what are you doing to surmount it? Are you speaking with them about their triggers, what they need to be done differently? I came up with this co-reg acronym, which is just a really simple way to remember some key points in the moment when our child's, you know, dysregulated. Think about how we communicate with them. What tone of voice are we using? What words are we using? Observe, be a stress detective. Like I said, what are the triggers in that environment or in your behaviour? How are we reasoning with them? Remember what I said, once we've calmed them down and they feel psychologically safe, because remember, if that lid has flipped, remember we need to make them feel calm and safe again. Talk about alternative ways to manage those big emotions. What could they do differently, and how are you helping them to understand those different ways? Have you written down a checklist together? Have you made things together? You know, I say make things because glitter jars tend to work really well. So like, I'm feeling really angry, really fizzy. And then we do some deep breathing. And then by the time the glitters settle to the bottom, the breathing's slower. Loads of things that Andrea's going to go through. So I'm not going to go through them all now. But empathy is critical. By showing empathy, they immediately see through your body language. Okay, this adult's safe, they care. I've peed them off, but they're all right. I can tell them how I feel. And it requires a lot of reflecting back the language. Well, I'm really angry because you did that. I understand you're feeling angry, and I would feel angry too. But it doesn't mean we have to hit so and so. For example, I mean, I don't know about you, but as an adult, when someone repeats back what I say in a genuine way, I'm like, wow, you actually listened to what I said. And it means a lot. It's validating. We must validate their emotions. And then along with that reasoning, we guide. We go through those in the moment strategies and we practice them over and over again in future instances of dysregulation. Some days it might work better than others. It might be that you're having a really crappy day and you've got no emotional reserves left. So just be patient, because all of this, the effectiveness of co-regging, depends on you and your ability to hold it in and manage your own issues, if you like. And it's difficult, and it gets more difficult if we don't have many support functions and networks around us. I guess it's that adage, isn't it? It takes a village, and it really does, but you're not alone. And I think having those honest, reflective moments, you know, well, you know, I didn't deal with this so really well, but then what was going on with me that day, you know, and looking to maybe solve that either with friends, family, or get help formally. But our children's well-being really does depend on it. And it's not just for today, it's across their life trajectories, and it does shape how they respond to adversity. So we have to build that resilience from now. We can never start too early. And on that note, I believe it's time for me to pass on to Andrea. Bear with, because she'll probably come on to this. Well, it's just what I've said anyway. But I don't know what the policies are at Middlesex, but if you do need support, there should be mental health supports there for you. And please just make the most of them, because you really do count. You know, this is what I say to everyone. This is how we do it. It works for me. Well, if it isn't working for your child and you know that something needs to improve, do it. Dare to do different and see what comes. But for me, being child-centered and being respectful have to be the main drivers. They have to be the main drivers. It's not about what we expect of children academically and for them to comply like little robots. No, thank you. I'd rather have a emotionally resilient and robust child who dares to question, challenge, and critique adults around them. Because for me, actually, all of this is a safeguarding issue. I don't want a compliant child. No, thank you. I don't want her being blackmailed into behaving. No, thank you. Right, thank you for listening to me. I'll check out the chat functions and pass over to Andrea.
Huge thank you. I'll turn my camera on, that might be helpful. Huge thank you, Mina. That was absolutely incredible. I think so important, and yeah, we just so much to learn from. I always, on the science, I always want to learn more. We'll get you back, but yeah, just such a brilliant overview as well. Thank you. I'm just going to introduce Andrea. So Andrea Sofroniou has been working with children and in the field of childcare for over 20 years in a range of capacities ranging from nursery manager, teacher, foster carer, parent, and author. Within her roles, she's been fortunate enough to work with children at all levels from babies to Key Stage 4. Alongside and within these roles, Andrea works with children who have a wide range of special educational needs and disabilities, and has developed a particular specialism in emotional behaviour disorder and autism spectrum disorder. Andrea ran a series of 5 talks for us in the Parents and Carers Network in September 2022 on the topics of mental wellbeing for children, how to support children in school and out, the early years foundation stage, supporting SEN parents and carers, the transition from nursery to reception, and calm and confident regulation. I think I'm going to change that word. Andrea has qualifications which range from a nursery nurse qualification to a master's degree in education, and most recently has acquired a certificate in Place to Be to assist children with emotional issues. So huge thank you, Andrea. Those of you who can't stay with us to go on, we're of course recording, so I'll send you everything, but welcome to Andrea, and huge thank you for being with us, Andrea.
Thank you, Christiana. Yes, I know that we haven't got much time left, so I'll try to keep this quick. I think Minna covered so much anyway. This is obviously, as you're probably aware, her baby. So I'm just going to go through more so of how to support your child to co-regulate. So how can you co-regulate if you are dysregulated yourself? So in order to support your children who are dysregulated, you need to ensure that you are in the right mindset yourself. Yes, easier said than done. When you're tired, you've had a hard day at work, you need to come home, you need to cook, prepare for the evening, maybe the next day. You can easily be triggered yourself. You cannot regulate or support with the co-regulation if you are triggered or your emotions are heightened. So think about a situation at work or with friends, your partner. Sometimes you need to find a way to diffuse, cool off before you say or do something that you'll regret. What do? How do you calm down? So Minna has actually come up with this stream of regulation. So we start off at the bottom of the stream. So there are some ideas there of what you can do. So potentially consider therapy to deal with the issues of your past or issues of the present. Take deep breaths, which helps with anxiety, cooling down, deflecting at the time, coming back to a place of calm. The Keep Your Cool Toolbox app, it's an app that Minna's devised. It's a free app, and I'm sure Minna might be able to tell you, well, you can actually just go on to the App Store and download that. Avoid recreational drugs, that includes alcohol, quick fixes that have a downward effect when they wear off. You cannot use things that will just take it off the moment. You need to face whatever it is that you're dealing with. Minna's already mentioned journaling, recording your feelings, keep a to-do list. I know that that works for me. I jot down what I'm feeling. I sometimes text myself messages. I might write poems just to express myself. As Minna said as well, lighting candles, whatever it is. So music always helps. Well, it helps me. Listening and practicing positive affirmations. So that's for you, that's for your children. Talk to other people, gain advice. You are not alone. As your child goes through different phases of their life, actually they will change. What used to work, like Minna's already touched on, may not work now. So you may need to change your approach. And again, speaking to others, they may have different approaches. They will be going through the same things as you are. Exercise, great way to relieve tension, even going for a walk with a friend. You can even do that with your child or with one of your other children. Meditation, Could be maybe having a bath, something to look forward to, candles, whatever you need to distress. As children grow and develop, you'll find more obstacles. There will be more triggers. What once worked, like I said, may not work now. You will need to change your approach. So find what makes you happy, talk to others, you are not alone. And remember, it is not personal. Sometimes when your child does or says something, and a lot of the time they may say something that they know will upset you, that's, as Minna said, you know, they flip their switch. It's not personal. You do need to walk away before you're triggered yourself and say or do something that you'll regret. So these are some of the triggers. I'm not going to go through all of them because I'm sure a lot of them have come up with what Minna said before. So I'm going to bypass this. So helpful strategies for your child. Having someone they feel safe to talk to, ask key questions, listen to what they say and show that you actually hear what they are saying. So this is exactly what Minna's already said. I know some of you here do actually work with children. And I know in a classroom environment, you might think, yeah, but we haven't got time. Actually, you've always got time. You know, sometimes you'll say, go and take time out with a child. It's not about taking time out. It might be just about going and having a safe space to sit and just give that child's time to calm down and come back and regulate themselves before you're able to have that conversation with them. But that's also the same for you. Have a calm, safe space within the home, at school. Have something you know that they love that relaxes them. But this also goes for yourself. Comforter could be anything. I know that my son, when he's triggered, actually what calms him down is to go into my kitchen and start cooking. That could easily trigger me because I can't stand people in my kitchen. However, I know it calms him down. So I just need to move away and let him do what he needs to do. And actually, we've discussed what it is that may trigger me in terms of just make sure you clean the kitchen or tell me what resources you need beforehand so that I don't run out. So that way we work together. It helps to calm him down. I don't necessarily get triggered. It's just as simple as having a conversation, recording things in a diary, having a calendar. So I always discuss having a calendar because my children and myself, sometimes we have anxiety. Having a calendar, recording what's happened the day before, maybe what's happening a few days after, preempts maybe triggers that could come up. So we've already mentioned breathing exercises, walking, staying busy, facing any fears you may have, and also liaising with teachers at school. What works there? Get them on board too, if possible. A lot of our children will mask at school, so they won't show, they won't necessarily be triggered. They'll show different sides to them at school. Sometimes different things work. So again, it's just about having that communication. And finally, I'm going to end with this. All the treatment in the world won't be enough for a child who returns to a home or school with dysregulated adults. And that's it. I thought I'd keep it a bit short, but Minna's pretty much covered everything as well.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Andrea, as well. And putting it into practice is just so helpful as well for us as parents and carers, and also Anne and Emma, I know, with us from the nursery. So yeah, just like it's important to learn that theory, but also have these tools to actually put it into place. I know Andrea was a huge advocate of the Now and Then board and a number of other brilliant tools she's got. So she's really useful and helpful with kind of giving us that kind of information as well of, you know, yes, you say I need to do this, but how do I actually do this? So please open the floor now if anyone's got any questions. I know it's all a lot to take in as well. Like I'm always falling over with the levels of like learning from Minna.
Can I answer a question?
Oh, please. Yeah, please.
Lourdes has asked, what's that got to do with interoception? Interoception is our, I describe it as our antennae. It helps us to look out for any dangers, if, you know, be it it's a person or a place, whatever starts, you know, whatever makes us feel unsafe inside. And self-regulation has all to do with interoception, because the moment we feel unsafe, our neuroception has made us go, heart beating fast. And then you start to unravel, don't you? So what's even more important in this instance is somebody to co-regulate if it's a very young child. And I'm talking particularly about children who have suffered early adversity, who have been traumatized, who maybe are neurodivergent, because I describe it as because I am a child of ACEs. I tick 9 of the 10 boxes. My neuroception, my goodness, on some days I think, oh, I'm like a superhero. It's like super antennae. But I don't want to say I've got faulty neuroception, but we are wired for stress. So we are on the lookout, and I might say it to Andrea, why'd you speak to me like that? I didn't like your tone. She went, what? I haven't done anything. So we can be hypersensitive to potential triggers and stressors. So absolutely, neuroception has interoception, how our brain and body feels, has all to do with self-reg and our ability to self-regulate, which again, I'm going to say, pardon the repetition, which makes our role as co-regulators all the more important to understand the triggers for these children or adults indeed. Is that clarified it at all, Lourdes?
Yes, 100%. Thank you so much. So I think in a way, I think it's very important to provide children the language to be able to recognize those feelings.
Yeah, big time. But my worry is, Lourdes, if the arbiters of the education system are not encouraging its workforce to grapple with the language, then our children don't have much hope of doing so either. And remember, the first book I wrote on neuroscience, I started writing it with a neuroscientist, and he went quiet very quickly. And I was like, what's going on? And long story short, he didn't understand what a book like mine had to offer parents and practitioners, right? And anyone with no grit would go, oh, boo-hoo, I better not write it then. And here I am on my 6th book. So you have to question the intentions of these people and why they are trying to, you know, silence us and create another narrative that isn't child-centered. There should be no room for it.
Andrea, can I ask you, Andrea, to give us a few more of your techniques to put things into practice, things like the now and then board that you've found across the years with children in school as well, because it would be good to kind of address that level as well. I know some of our parents and carers have actually got kids who are, you know, past and in reception and onwards. Like, any tools like the now and then board, or could you explain the now and then board? Thank you.
Okay. So the now and then board, I mean, like Minna said, some of our children are very, very young and with their expectations. So with the now and then board, it's like if you want them to do a task or you need them to do something in very quick time restraints, you use a now and then board, and you can actually do this with toilet training. So I have quite a few special needs children, because I know we mentioned potty training before we got on, and it's very much, let's do this first and then we'll do this, just so that it doesn't trigger them. So I had, again, I'm going to mention the child I had at the nursery. He was severely autistic, came into the nursery with nappies. Mum was trying, and mum actually worked in a special needs school herself. So it was very much, let's keep him in pants and trousers so that he can understand, but trying to remove him from an activity that he's working, that he's engaged in, actually would have been too much of a trigger. So using the now and then board to preempt what was going to happen, let's quickly go to the toilet first, then you can come back to it. So he knew, actually, I'm not going to be taken away from my activity forever. I'm going to come back. Initially, obviously, it's hard because you're just giving him these pictures and it's the first time he's been exposed to them. But eventually, he understood. And that's the same with any task. Unfortunately, in a school or a nursery, you know, like Minna said, we've got so many things that we need to do with our children. But especially in early years, if you are taking them away from a task or they're doing something that actually they don't really want to do, but as a teacher or practitioner, we have to do these things. Well, let's do this first and then you can do something. Or sometimes it might be that they're sitting at that task for too long a time. So you may give them a timer to go with it. So, and yes, PECS does work. And a lot of the times it was PECS that we used to use for those visuals. Sometimes it would be the real pictures. And what I also used to do is make packs for the parents, so they had the exact same visuals at home. Sometimes I'd give them blank cards that were laminated as well, and they could draw things on them. So PECS is a pictorial exchange communication system. So where children do not have the language to communicate, you're using the pictures to show them. So it would be a picture of a toilet, we're going to the toilet. You would use the language, but they can't necessarily use the language. You could have these pictures around your room or in a place, maybe with this, perfect, thank you, Anne. You would have these pictures displayed in your classroom, so the children can actually remove the picture from the wall and come and give it to you. So if they wanted to go outside near their pegs, there may be a picture of a coat. They'll remove the picture of the coat, come and give it to you, and that shows that actually they need to, they want to go outside maybe, or they want something. But what I'm also going to add is sometimes as parents, we also put a lot of guilt on ourselves, you know, and sometimes, okay, we don't always manage our own feelings all the time. We flip our switch and we don't necessarily deal with situations in the way we should, because we're only human. And then we go to bed and then we feel guilty and we think, oh my goodness, I've completely messed up my child, or I've messed up this situation. Well, actually, again, what Minna said, how we model and deal with that situation actually will help your child. And I know this has happened with me lots of times. I've had many conversations with Minna on how I've messed up, or, you know, I haven't managed my emotion, but that's actually a great place to have a discussion with your child. You know what, this is how this is what happened. This is what triggered me. This is how I responded, but actually I was wrong. This is maybe what I should have done. Let's talk about it together. What could I have done? Maybe what could you have done differently? And it's all about that discussion and that modeling of your behavior that actually will help them with theirs after, or even to have that conversation. And sometimes it is about giving your child space to calm down, but sometimes if they're, so I'm going to give you an example of my son. So if my son is dysregulated, and I want him maybe to go to his room or to just go and calm down, sometimes he will not leave, or he won't. And that could be another battle. So actually he's old enough, I need to leave. It might be that I go to my room. It might be that I actually go for a walk, take my daughter with me, just to leave him in the house so he's safe and he's on his own. By the time I've come back, actually, we're in a good place to have that conversation. You know, I've had to change my approach. And as your children get older, your approaches will have to change, because you've got so many other factors that come into play. You've got social, I mean, all of this social media, it's crazy. You know, the peer pressure as they go to secondary school, all of those demands on them, like Minna said, unfortunately, not just exams, but peer interaction, hormones. Come 11 years old onwards, it's a complete game changer. Everything completely changes. They don't even know why they're reacting in the way. I mean, my daughter's fantastic with explaining her emotions, but we talk all the time, and she'll actually talk to me, tell me how she's feeling. She actually talks all by herself, but I'm there listening, and she says, I know what you're going to say, Mum, and blah, 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 blah. And I know in years to come, it won't matter. And she'll just go on and on and on. And she takes on the parent role and the child role, but just her letting it out and me being there, actually, she's in a good place. So I think don't be too hard with yourself. You know, the parent guilt does take its toll on us too. Sorry, I've just kind of gone off on one.
No, I love it because you're so practical, Andrea, and you help us to just put it into practice, which is just so key for me. I really struggle. I start understanding. So yeah, lots of lovely comments. But essentially, how do we navigate these like regulation spaces? Like I know, for example, Ava at her school, she had in her previous class, she had a regulation table. I don't think she's got a regulation space at all in her current class. The very different teacher doesn't feel that way. But also, how could we, what would an ideal regulation space look like at nursery, look like at home, look like
I was going to say, I know Minna's got a few ideas. Before I let you talk, Minna, I'm going to say, I think each area, each nursery will be different. And again, it's about knowing your children. I know in some classrooms, there's a self-regulation table, which has got lots of fidget things on there, light things, like Minna mentioned before, the glitter bottles, whatever it is to calm your children down. Some places have got these calming zones. And again, it's a bit like sensory rooms, but little areas. It might be calming, it might be lights, but that may trigger certain children. So I think it's about knowing your children, having things there like the comforters that you know will calm your children down, allowing them to bring things in from home that actually they may be able to go and access, take from their bags, that will calm them down. Go on, Minna. I know you want to say your bit.
To be honest, I was going to this is my latest book, right? And Dr. Stuart Shanker, I interview him in the beginning of this, and there's a foreword written by his chief CEO partner as well. And I love their work because it is so practical in nature. And there's loads of examples of self-reg spaces in schools, pupil referral units and nurseries in here. But never mind that, because we're here as parents. So I spoke about my work with my daughter's friend's parents. One's a nurse, one's a vicar, and she's got 3 children of young different ages. And she says, but the middle one's really angry. It might be having to put her socks on, just sends her over the edge. So, and then, the other 2 feel left out, then they get dysregulated, and it's all a whole co-dysregulation going on there. So I suggested getting a space, if they had a space, and letting them create it and let them populate it. So they've got that sense of ownership. So already they're feeling validated, listened to, and powerful agents of their own lives, if you like. And what they did, it was very simple, because mum sat down with the children. Right, well, look, we want to talk about making a little space for where we can go when we're feeling a bit upset. And you don't have to be upset when you use it. You can go in there anytime you like, just to be a bit quiet, whatever it is. But it's somewhere we can go where we can feel safe. So in the end, these children wanted to get an empty jar, and they all wrote down things that they would do the next time they get angry. So it might be a cuddle from mum, a cuddle from dad, going into the garden, playing with so-and-so, whatever it is. They've got books about prayers and being calm, but each to their own, whatever your beliefs are. So it was basically stories about emotions, fidget toys, squidgies. They each had a cushion with their initial on it, so A, J and H, and that little sense of ownership. So that's their space. They had some drawing materials, papers, felt tips, colours, different modalities as well, Play-Doh, which is brilliant, I think. So it's really up to the children with you to decide what it will look like. Generally, I'm thinking of the nurseries I work with. It's soft furnishings, it's rugs, it's a big teddy that they can snuggle up in, especially those that are having transitional difficulties moving from the home into the new setting, for example. They also do these places outdoor, so it might be getting some tarpaulin, some lavender, fresh lavender, whatever it is, but it should come from the children ideally, because it's materials that will help to soothe them, and they have a right to choose those resources. But definitely the books about emotions, the different sensory, so like lavender is brilliant, as is lemon verbena, but that's more for awakening, whereas lavender's more soothing. Cushions, soft toys, fidgets, but make sure they're, you're not in settings, but talking about keeping them clean and sterilized. So be led by the children, and do pick up my book, have a look at it, or look at stuff online. There's loads. I don't want to promote my work over anything else, but just look at examples and create a little space in your homes. It's not difficult, but it is very worthwhile.
That's so helpful. It's just, I've just sprung to memory. I don't know if Nadia, if you've seen it as well, but yeah, Emma and Annie can tell us at Middlesex Nursery that there is the that room, isn't there? It's soft furnishings room with like the big teddy, and God, so yeah, you've already thought of all this brilliantness. It's very encouraging and helpful for Nadia and I and people who do use this nursery to know that you guys are all on it, thank goodness. Is there any burning questions that I've missed as well? Sorry, I'll take over, otherwise I need to shush. Oh, Lourdes is saying, if we can maybe identify 5 things. Oh, yeah, sorry, other things about regulating. See, smell, hear. Amazing.
1 minute. Non-verbal empathy, Anne. Absolutely. It's not only children with EAL, it's also children with other, you know, it might be neurodivergent condition, whatever it is, but we all take information differently, we process it differently. Some children love to be hugged, for example, they need that physical demonstration of affection, some don't. So it really is your knowledge of that individual child. But absolutely, you know, it's like these no touch policies in certain settings, because it's, you know, they're stupid, they've taken safeguarding to ridiculous levels. Children understand behavior before they understand language. I mean, yes, there's the receptive language, the understanding, but before the expressive language comes and we can have those deep and meaningful conversations with our children, we show them by smiles and body language and proximity and how we are, you know, not stood over them, but on their, you know, at their level. And all this non-verbal communication, of course, is absolutely critical. It plays a key role in how we show that we are empathizing with them, that we're not angry. So all of that, facial gestures, hand gestures. I mean, I'm a Turk, so I'm always like this, but doesn't mean I'm angry. I'm just, you know, Mediterranean. So yeah, it's definitely key.
But also understanding that some of our non-verbal children, this is where we are going to have to be detectives, because sometimes you may not know what the trigger is. It may be a perfume that you've worn, or it might be the lavender that you've actually just put in your self-regulation area. That may be a trigger. I knew somebody who was triggered by the color red, you know. So understanding that actually your special needs children and your non-verbal children, they may be triggered by something that's happened. Actually, what's changed in your setting that day? What is it that's happened? What is it that they're telling you but not telling you? So yeah, it is very much so about knowing your children. And again, having those conversations with people at the nursery or the schools, because they may pick up on something that you haven't, you know. And also communicating. If your child hasn't slept very well the night before, or they've been a bit unwell, actually tell your child's teacher, because that will have a massive impact on how that child's going to be during the day.
We had an amazing suggestion from Andrea as well, for drop off at reception or drop off at nursery, that bringing that nursery space or that reception space home as well, having a photo on the wall and making that become really familiar at home as well, and kind of having that routine. Because I'm in that phase at the minute of like, I drop off Bo, and sometimes he's really happy to go in to nursery, sometimes he wants to have a little cry, and it's really hard as a parent to walk away from your child who's also crying at that door. And like, so yeah, is there any more kind of techniques around that, Andrea, or could you explain that more fully? Because one of the ladies who isn't with us today, but is unfortunately, she's on jury service, she wishes she was, found that really helpful dropping off her grandson, and they were kind of using this technique. So if this one I found really crucial as well, if you wouldn't mind explaining it to us.
Well, it was a bit like with creating a safe place in your nursery or in the school. I used to always have a parent wall. So when you go for your home visits and you take photographs of the child with their parents in their own environment, making sure that board is at the child's level. So actually, if ever they're feeling dysregulated or upset or whatever it is, for whatever reason, actually they can take themselves to that wall and they feel that there's that connection. And it's the same with home, you know. Having that conversation, sometimes it's a bit like what I was saying with the calendar, preempting what's going to happen. They may have had a really good day at nursery, but actually by the evening when bedtime comes, panic starts to set in. Always does. It happens with me as a teacher before I go to work the next day. You know, it happens with all of us sometimes going into work. So reminding them, actually, you've had a really good day today. Having that conversation with the teacher. What is it that they did? Make notes of what they did and what they enjoyed at school. Take it home. Remind your child. That's why I put it on the calendar. Writing down, well, actually, you had a good day today. This is what you did. This is what you did the day after. And so on. And what I was mentioning with the transition booklet, it may be that they take photographs of the child in the setting or in different areas. You can have it at home and then reflect, go back on it. So it might be your bedtime book for that night, or what you'll do in the morning. This is what you did yesterday, and this is what you're going to go back to today, to get them a bit excited and enthusiastic about what they're going. So it's less unknown.
That's so helpful. Thank you so much. Has anyone else got any burning questions or anything they want to put into practice, or anything they want to ask more about the theory side with Minna? I think we've got another 5 minutes. We don't have to use it, but yeah, thank you everyone for staying on as well. I know it's a bit cheeky. I should have done an hour and a half. But thank you for giving me this time. No, I just, you know, we thought we'd attract more people as well with less time. Oh, Nadia.
Hello. I just wanted to say about the upstairs downstairs brain, because I've read about that before, and it's really like, it makes sense. Like once they flip their lid, it understands why. But another really good visual that I think helped me, you know, those little rainbow things that they've got, the rainbows that stack on top, the kids always seem to have at the moment, and someone had the first and the second bits, and that's a kid's brain. So once the top one goes, that's the downstairs thing, but ours was all the layers on top, and I think for me that kind of switched it. So I found it helpful, because we have all those extra layers that the kids don't, and I think, yeah, I'm a visual person, so I need those things. So I just thought I'd add that in case that helped anyone with the upstairs downstairs thing, because that is a really important thing that Minna was saying about.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I appreciate that. And it's, you know, and it's constructed by us. That's why I call us brain builders.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite important, like what Minna said, to recognise that actually it's up until 26 before we're actually able to self-regulate. So our expectations of our young ones is a lot. You know, they cannot do it on their own. If you think sometimes we flip our lids, we have difficulties at our age controlling our emotions. We do put a lot of pressure. You know, and I have got 2 teenage children, well, almost, and the hormones, just everything is just so much and so overwhelming, you know. And again, as Minna said, with the exams and all the pressures and everything else added on, we do need to be mindful that they have got a lot going on and they cannot control it as we can. Sometimes we can't anyway, but
I completely agree. I can't control it. I'm really working hard, and it's really hard to recognize that, yeah, you're in no position to be co-regulating when you can't self-regulate, and it's a hard lesson, but it's so important. Sue Lee, did you want to say something?
Yes, please. Thanks, Christiana. I wanted to ask if you had any advice on co or self-regulation for older children, so sort of from age 11, 15. I'm kind of asking as a family member looking on, where the parenting style from day one has been very behavior management focused, and I'm seeing detrimental effects for both the parent and the children, and obviously wanting to role model as best I can within my position. But yeah, I just wondered if you had any sort of thoughts or advice for kids for that age, that, you know, they're obviously getting quite a lot older now.
I think, as Minna said earlier, and I know Minna's she's taken a mute button off, so I know you're going to say something, Minna, but it is very much about having those conversations. It's not about managing the behavior as such and being in control. It's not about, I'm the parent, you need to listen to what I say, because actually they have a voice and they need to be listened to. So it is very much having that conversation. What is it you're doing? What is it you're thinking? What is it you're feeling? And why? How does it make you feel? And it's about having that relationship, especially when they become teenagers. There's so much going on, and you actually need to knock those barriers down, because you want your child to feel safe and comfortable to come and tell you all of the things that are going on in their life, but to a safe place, knowing they're not going to be judged, they're not going to be reprimanded for whatever it is that's going on. You want to be that, as a parent, you need to be that go-to person. They need to be able to come to you with their problems, knowing that actually you're not going to be, oh my goodness, why has this happened? This panic mode. You know, we know what the dangers are out there, but actually We can't cotton wrap our children. They're becoming, especially their age, they're becoming independent. They are going to be going out on the streets on their own. And we need to be providing them with the tools to be able to see dangers and to be able to react and act in certain ways that's going to protect them. We can't be there to fight their battles constantly. And by having those conversations with them and by discussing, well, what's happened? Okay, how does it make you feel? What do you think we can do differently? How do you want me to approach this, or what do you want me to do? A few times I've had to ask that to my daughter. Mum, this has happened. This is what my friend has done. I know now that her friend's put herself in danger. I know what I should be doing. What do you think I should be doing? And then we'll come to an agreement, because ultimately as the adult, I need to make sure her friend's potentially safe. Actually, this is what I need to do without putting you in a compromising situation, because it's the right thing to do. You discuss, you liaise, but it is about having those doors of communication open. It's not about having behavior strategies. You know, I was very much, no, phones need to be switched off at a certain time. TVs need to be switched off at a certain time. And each night it may have been a certain battle. And then afterwards, I thought, you know what, it's creating more hassle than it's worth. You know what, go to bed whatever time you want. The next day, actually, they were shattered, they were unwell. This is actually a result of what's happened. Let's discuss it. I'm not telling you to go to bed at a certain time because I want to control your bedtime routine. Actually, you need a certain amount of sleep so that you can be alert, so you can absorb whatever it is that's going on with your day, and so that your body and immune system is well enough to fight it off. This is what I'm saying. This is why. So I think it's just about them understanding you're not actually making rules because you want to be the boss, or because you're the one in charge. It's not about that. Actually, I'm saying this is what needs to happen and this is why. And it's about having that conversation and not necessarily being on the same level because you are the parent, but forming a relationship as such. Minette, did you want to add anything? Are you behind the screen?
You said that with a tone, Minette. Like.
Yeah, because I'm waiting for you to jump on and be like, oh.
No, it's really, for me, it's close to my heart, because like I said, my child's not long turned 10, and I don't know what gremlin got inside her at 10 years old, boy, but
hormones, I'm telling you.
There's some massive seismic change in her behavior, her attitude. And I'm very demonstrative with my love, but I'm going to be honest with each and every one of you. My ability to self-regulate is crap. And like I said, I come from a very chaotic background. I've got ADHD, PTSD, all the flipping acronyms, but it has an impact is why I'm telling you. And I do flip my lid. I go from 0 to 1 billion in a millisecond. And my daughter does see this, but one thing adults need to get better at, especially the older they get, is apologizing for when they speak to their children like rubbish. And I can shout and she doesn't like it and I say sorry and I got upset because blah, blah, blah. But I think what's most important the older they get is that relationship, boy, because they change. And you have to be that one consistent source of unconditional love. Behavior management tells them that our love is conditional and that we love them until they do so and so. And then, no, you've lost my love. And I hate that. It's about showing them that you're human. Like Andrea said, bedtime battles, blimmin' heck, we were always 8:30 douche in bed, bedtime stories. Now, even if I send her to bed at 9, 8:30, 9, she's up there writing in her journal and I can't complain. I say to her, look, I'm not saying this because I'm trying to control you because I'm an adult. I'm saying it because your brain takes up the most energy in your body. It's an energy eating monster. When you wake up tired, you're starting off at the back. I say your brain and your body need to get, rest so that you're able to think clearly and get on and be happy at school. It's not, but it might be then, well, what can we do to get them more active in the day, less screen times, more engagement going on, but lay off the consequences. They don't need banning. They don't need all this. Oh my days. What is it? oh, come on, Andrew, what's it called? Grounding them and taking the iPad away because they didn't do something. It's horrible. We don't do it to each other. We didn't cook a dinner I like, so I'm not giving you so-and-so for a week. Shut up, man. Just have a conversation with them. Why do you think I didn't approve? What were the consequences for you? What can we do differently the next time? Talk with them, involve them in the decisions that are made about them. That is it. Don't do to them, do with them. Find a better solution.
And actually going with that, where as adults, we don't get it right. And yes, we do apologize, but I'm also going to say, be careful of how many times you do not necessarily flip your lid. You do have to actually take responsibility and try not to flip your lid that much, because at the same time, this is where the cycle comes in. And yes, I'm a single mum, and I did come from an abusive relationship, and I broke that cycle because actually it's not okay to be in that cycle, and one sorry actually doesn't fix it all the time. And I didn't want my children to then become victims of abuse. It's not okay for somebody to keep doing the wrong thing, saying sorry, and actually it's all better. No, that's why those conversations are really important. You know, this is what I've done wrong. This is how I should have handled it. And actually my children hold me to account now. You know, Mum, you've done this. You said that next time you were going to do this. You know what? You're right. And I hold my hands up. And now I do walk away. And it's okay for my children to hold me to account, because actually I don't want them to then get into another relationship or whatever it is where that, you know, it's okay. It's not okay. But at the same time, it is about discussing and learning strategies together.
And it ruptures the relationship beyond repair. Those parents, and so many studies show this, so, you know, that strict authoritarian approach does damage the parent-child relationship across the life trajectory. And how could it not? Because you treat your child like shit. Would you expect them to give you the love back? No, thanks. I don't, you know. Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, it also comes up to our upbringing, how we were brought up and what the expectations were on us, and also cultures. You know, I wasn't allowed out when I was younger. My daughter's allowed out to a certain extent. I will drop you off, I will pick you up, send me your live location so I can see where you are. It's not about me controlling you. I just need to know you're safe. Actually, she's such an amazing child. She's very, very sensible, her head screwed on. It's not her I don't trust, it's the other idiots who are out there. And that's what I say to her, you know, but I have such a good relationship with her. It wasn't like that. Like Mina said, my daughter turned into a gremlin. I had the door shutting. I had the, I hate you. I've got that sometimes with my son. I hate you. I wish you were dead. Oh my goodness. It kills me, you know, and that's why I was saying, don't take it personal. I've had many conversations with Minnie. I've had many conversations with friends, family, you know, and my mum used to say to me, you were the same. Don't take it personal. My son will tell me how much he hates me. I turn around and say, you know what? It doesn't matter. I love you enough for both of us. They're the last words he will hear from me. Inside, I'm screaming, shouting, and I want to smash my head against the wall, but it's not forever, you know, and I know that he's amazing and children are amazing with other people. So you know what, if he's and my children, and you know, they are good with at school and they're good with other people's, actually you are making amazing young adults. You are the person that they feel safe with, so they will be worse with you than with anyone else. Don't take it personal. Easier said than done, but it's not going to last.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's amazing. I'm speaking as not the parent, but as like I said, a close family member, and so like everything you've said is exactly how it plays out. Yeah. It's very difficult to sort of watch happen when, especially when, you know, I'm gaining all this amazing sort of insight from you guys as well, and believing in it. It's very difficult from my position to be able to try to influence anything, but yeah, absolutely. And that is the worry, is that the relationship, you know, there's lots of other things at play as well. So not just kind of like the parenting style, but, you know, other life factors. And yeah, you just want to be able to help, really. But
Absolutely. Yeah. And as an outsider, actually sometimes, and it happened with my nieces and nephews, it may be actually that you step in and you say, I'll have your child for a few hours, and you give that parent and that child space. With my daughter, a couple of years ago, I got her a job at my friend's hairdresser's salon. She was only 12, but those few hours there, it wasn't a job as such. She was so happy to go. My friend was very happy to take her on. Just those few hours actually gave her independence, gave her another adult to have a conversation with, a safe adult. So when my daughter wanted to go and offload and say whatever she wanted about me, my friend actually gave her a different perspective. She'll see other people going in and moaning about their children or whatever, and she'll come home and say, Mum, I actually know now what you're talking about, but it didn't come from me. It would be from actually having a different perspective. Same with my son. I'm trying to maybe get, and it was a bit about like what Mina with her slides with the empathy side of things. You know, my son's actually so loving and caring, especially with regards to animals. And I was trying to get him to do some voluntary work, maybe going and working with horses or in an animal sanctuary where he goes to look after, because it's a sense of relief. He's not very sporty, although he loves dance. You know, some children have a place to go and burn steam, let off steam, or whatever you want to call it. You know, it may be football, it may be, you know, gym, or it may be whatever it is, you know, but even going and looking after animals or whatever it is, sometimes that in itself is an escape. It's that space away from each other. And actually it's another talking point. How was it? What did you do today? You know, and again, COVID didn't help. You're stuck with each other constantly. You know, the routines changed. That's when not necessarily behavior strategies, because that wasn't necessarily, but that's where our routine went out of the window, because you're trying to deal with their own mental well-being and your own sanity. Everything kind of changes.
Did you try to instigate a meeting with the parents directly, or instigate a meeting with the parent and child?
It's within the family, so you know the formality of it, wouldn't be like that anyway. But I think just as an ongoing thing, trying to be like a healthy influence on all parties. But
if they're being too dogmatic and pressurizing for that child, that needs to be addressed, because their psychological well-being will be impacted by all of that.
Yeah,
but that's something for you to consider anyway.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much.
Huge thank you. I mean, I don't think any of us want this to end because we've just learned so much, and it's just so brilliant having both elements. So huge thank you. You are my favorite speakers. Want to invite you back relentlessly.
Well, listen, as always, if anyone's got any other questions, or you know, post them to me or Minette, you know, and we're happy to answer anything.
Yeah, I think a few people have asked, if you both wouldn't mind sending me your PowerPoints, that'd be lovely, and I will share that with everyone to follow in PDF format that you're comfortable with. Honestly, we're just honoured to have you both with us, and we've learned so much and we've engaged so much, and we'll maybe put some of these ideas together. As a last thing, is there anything helpful that just because I'm conscious of Mina, your work with Ursula and the nurseries, it's just amazing. Is that something in a toolkit that can go to other other nurseries, or is it like quite individual to the work?
No, it's how do I tap it in the everyone box? It's called Self-Reg Get Set Go. And because Ursula brought it all to life, it's exactly what she did. So there's templates of policies that have been changed. There's lesson plans, PowerPoints, staff testimonial videos, examples of the self-reg spaces they've created. So and then we give, obviously I give discounts to people when they buy so many, but so that's you know, a fantastic, very practical tool. I was also going to invite anyone who's interested. I've got my next book launch on Friday, the 21st of July. It's my debut therapeutic children's story book with an adult guide. And it's it's my present to myself, basically, because it's called Maya's Ace Adventures, and Maya is me and Ace is Adverse Childhood Experiences, and it's about a child whose dad serves a lengthy prison sentence. Yes, he did. And she's picked on at school, and mum and the boyfriend are arguing all the time, and oh, my life's so shit, oh my god, da, da, da. But actually, as she goes on day by day, you see that she's got so many what we call protective factors in her life that she collects. Actually, Andrea's sitting there probably going, BITCH, I helped you write that book, because she did.
I did.
And she collects all these keepers that are physical manifestations. And actually, my life is a bit rubbish, but I've got all these great things going on as well. And it's a beautiful celebration of children's resilience. And Selene Henry wrote its foreword. I haven't said this to anyone, by the way. This is like hot off the press. And he's hopefully going to be giving one of the little talks at the launch as well. And it's in Clerkenwell. And I've got the founder of Trauma in Schools giving a keynote as well. So come along like it's free.
Stunning venue.
You'll get champagne, cake.
You get to meet us in person.
Meet us and meet each other. Christiana and Andrea was the last one. Come along. It's a celebration. You won't cost a penny, but you'll leave with good stuff. And it's lovely to, like-minded people and spread the messages of hope, I think. So do come along if you want.
Actually, my
Thank
kids
you
were
for
saying to
extending
me,
that.
Minnie, that they want to.
I'll invite everyone. Sorry,
What,
Andrea.
It's right, I'll tell you after. Want a copy of your books? The kids want one too this time.
Yeah,
She always gives my books away.
Shut up, Andrea.
At the end of the book launch, Andrea was like, "Where's my book?" And I was like,
Honestly, I
signed.
hid it.
Mine's
I hid
signed."
it to one side. I was like to Paul, I've put my book on the side, and then she gave it away. I was like,
I did.
typical. I got
There's
one in the end.
the toll of a bestie. You've both been absolutely incredible. Thank you, Lourdes. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Celie. Thank you, Shakila. Thank you, iPhone. Not sure who you are, iPhone, but thank you for being with us all the way to the end. We would love to have you guys back with us, hopefully, in our summer slot.
Anytime.
It's been absolutely amazing.
Thank you
as
so
Celie says,
much.
absolutely fascinating. And we're just so grateful for you engaging with us. And we hope this is the beginning of a ongoing relationship.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Amazing. Well done, everybody.
Always.
Okay.
Thank you.
Huge thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.